Hello, and we are live with some great folks from Relic. We have Quinn Duffy, the Relic game director, and Philip Bull, the Dawn of War design lead. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today.
Our pleasure.
It's nice to be here.
What's It's Friday over there at Relic. What's kind of been going on today? Can you talk to us a little bit about what you guys have been up to this week?
I had donuts this morning. Every Friday at Relic is the donut day. So actually, I had a cruller. Just technically, I don't know if it's a donut or not, and then a bagel with cream cheese. So I'm feeling pretty satisfied. I got my coffee, and I'm ready to go.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I took a pass on the donut because I'm trying to trim down a little bit of the extra fill that has developed.
What
So,
about the bagel?
yeah, I'm going gluten free right now. So the very few bagel choices. I've discovered by going gluten free that the best thing about bread is the gluten. So breads are less part of my life right now.
I saw recently that was the whole gluten thing was a myth. Did you also see that recently?
No, no, don't
Gluten
shatter my
intolerance is
illusions.
in your head, so
Yeah.
you should eat all the bread you want.
Oh no, that's what I've spent the last 40 years doing.
It's gotten you to this point. Look how
It
successful you
has.
are now, though. Why stop
That's
now?
true. That's just secret to game design is bread, apparently.
Awesome. Well, like I said, thank you guys for joining us today, and we're really excited to have you on. We've been working for a couple months now to get you on the show. It's been great. We're really excited to kind of talk to you more, find out more about the people working at Relic, and kind of introduce you a little bit more to the SEGA community. Who there's probably quite a few people out there who are still a little unfamiliar with some of the IPs and some of the games that Relic has created over the years, and most recently Company Heroes 2. But first, I'd like to start back a few years, probably around a decade ago, when Relic was purchased by THQ. Now, going from then, you guys put out some really amazing titles. You had the Dawn of War games that Philip, that you are currently working on, the Outfit. You had the original Company Heroes, and then Space Marine. Now, going from then and kind of leading up with your time at THQ, towards the end there, obviously they started running into some financial troubles, and there were some rumors going around. But during that time, was there any, I guess, hints or anything noticeable internally, with you guys to see that there was any sort of problems going on with THQ?
I think I mean, it was an interesting period. If we could, not to be purposefully vague, but uh, I don't know. You sort of get a different view from the trenches than maybe the executives had at the company, and I think gamers are notoriously cynical types, and I think there's a little bit of cynicism about some of the moves that were being made, and to a degree, I think maybe we felt a little bit. I don't know, sort of in the backwater of what was happening because we're up in Vancouver, we're separated from distance, so we don't get the same perspective. But I mean, for the most part, it was business as usual at Relic. Our executives here have always done a great job of sort of keeping us motivated and working, and I think that's sort of the last couple of years felt like we were going to continue on what we were doing and keep a bit isolated from some of the issues happening there. But
Yeah, I mean, whenever you hear sort of crazy stories about what's happening with the stock price and all that stuff, really for us, the only reasonable reaction is to put our heads down and make the best games we can,
Hmm.
and that's sort of always been our philosophy. So, yeah, it was weird times, but the only way we could make it better was by making good games. And so we kept doing that, and I think ultimately that paid dividends for us when we did the transition to Sega, and Sega saw that value in us and brought us into the fold.
Right. I was personally just super disappointed to see THQ kind of go down like that towards the end, because they had such an amazing group of talent. Some of the some of the development studios, including Relic and Vigil, and some amazing IPs out there. But one of the neat things that THQ also did is they supported a lot of new initiatives, more so than some other companies out there, like for instance, like OnLive, which is the cloud-based gaming company that itself has actually had a bit of trouble in the last few years, but back then THQ was really supporting them with a lot of new games. I think Space Marine also made it over to OnLive. Did you guys actually have a big role in porting that over, or was that handled to another team or anything like that?
Well, I was on the Space Marine team at the time, and we definitely did some work to support it. I don't know who was running the actual technical port.
Mm-hmm.
I know we did PC and 360 in-house. We cooperated with an external studio for the PS3 port, although we did a bunch of that work too. So I imagine at least a good chunk of the work happened internally, but I don't. I'm not an engineer, so I don't know exactly. But
Right.
I do remember it being pretty exciting to get the game on one of those, on a live streaming platform like that. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, actually, I was a big OnLive user at the time. Even I ran an OnLive podcast back then. So I was really I love just new technology and things like that. I always hop aboard those things, and it was really amazing some of the things that OnLive was doing when people told them that they couldn't do it. That cloud gaming just wasn't possible at the time. They showed it was. But kind of going forward, towards the end there with THQ, we talked a little bit about that. But once it was announced that THQ was in fact going to, kind of go under, and they were going to have to sell off their IPs and internal studios, I'm sure it was pretty scary for you guys, though, kind of the unknown, not knowing what was going to happen. Can you talk a little bit about that? That whole. I know you said earlier, Philip, that you guys just kind of kept your heads down, worked on the games, but once the bidding and everything started going, and I'm sure you guys were keeping a close eye on that, and then once you found out that SEGA ended up winning that bid and to purchase Relic, what was the general feeling among the team there?
I think a lot of satisfaction. Not so much relief, because I mean, I'll speak for myself, not for everybody else. But I felt like we had a good game going with COH2. We had a lot of big publishers come to the studio, take a look at the game, and what they were saying about our game and our plans moving forward was really validating. And so, to a degree, I felt like we were going to be okay. I think there was some relief of just the interest that we were getting from other studios, and I think we had all sort of popped up every once in a while to take a look at what was happening in Delaware, where the bankruptcy proceedings were happening, just to follow the Twitter rumors and the sort of the auction back and forth. A couple of guys from Relic went to the bidding process just to see what was happening and let everybody know. And we saw that price going up, and the final purchase price for Relic, and I mean, it was astounding, I think, to us. But I think once we heard that SEGA was the purchaser, there was a great amount of relief and satisfaction, and knowing that we were going to be under some really solid partnerships for the next many years.
Yeah, I just echo that. Certainly during the period between when we found out about the bankruptcy and when the auction happened, there was a lot of uncertainty, but we were quite happy with the game we were producing. And as soon as big publishers started coming to check us out, it felt validating, and then the auction definitely felt validating. And that SEGA ended up being the purchaser felt really good, because we knew they had great experience with Creative Assembly. They had done great things with that studio. They understood the PC space. It was really good. I mean, I think within a day or an hour of finding out, we had posted a picture of Sonic as a Space Marine, and the Segafied Relic logo that you can see on Quinn's shirt. Uh, so yeah, we were really happy. It was really a great sort of resolution to what had been, a sort of confusing time for the team, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
There's always a little bit of survivor's guilt that happens there too, because I mean when THQ when the bankruptcy proceedings were over, and I think once, or maybe not even completely over, but once Relic was spun out, and a Vigil, no, not Vigil, sorry, Volition, one of the other studios, the big sort of pieces of THQ, there wasn't much left, and I think they kind of knew that was it, and when things shut down, they shut down really quickly. I seem to recall there was a video town hall within days after the proceedings where they just started outlining the plan to shut down, and at that point it became clear that real people that we had worked with were losing their jobs, and so there was a real sense of remorse around that, and we had worked with some great people over the years. It was really great to see a lot of the other studios get picked up. And that's a testament to the talent and creativity, like you had mentioned earlier. So that was really positive. But I think a few days after, there was a little bit of shell shock, maybe, and survivor's guilt.
Right, I understand that. And like you said, it's good to see that so many of those teams and people got picked up by different studios. I saw recently. Vigil, or the ex-Vigil, I think now they're known as Crytek USA, but they're working on Homefront 2, which is an excellent game. I really enjoyed the first one. It had a few flaws, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what they're doing, because those are some incredibly talented people out there. Now I wanted to ask and talk about some of the early conversations that went on between Relic and Sega, after the fact, after that happened. I'm sure that, like you mentioned, they came in, they saw Company Heroes 2. Obviously, they were interested in going forward with that. But what was it like the days after, that purchase, and some of the the early moments of that?
Well, I mean, Sega came to the studio really quickly right after, right? We had Phil's beside me here, that's why I'm looking over. I'm not just staring into, yeah. And I think one of the things that they had done is presented a plan for the future to Relic that was very satisfying to see. This was even before the purchase, so they understood how we were going to fit and the plan they had. And they came to the studio within a couple of days, I think, after the proceedings, and sort of talked to the employees and took stock of everything, where everything was, and we started putting our future plans together and presentations just to see how everything was going to fit. But it was exciting. It was sort of new beginnings, and we were finishing off COH2 at the time, so there was a lot happening,
Yeah, and one of the great messages they brought, even in the very early conversations, was that they wanted to get what was great about Relic, and to do that, they wanted Relic to be masters of their own destiny, of our own destiny. So, under Sega, there's been a push for the studio to be more independent. We definitely cooperate with the higher ups in Sega and so on, but we've been building brand and community teams internally and really setting our own course, very much on the model that some of the other studios at Sega have followed, and that's been great. That really, if there was any nervousness about the acquisition at first, it was like, okay, there's a new corporate culture. Is this just going to be become a cog in the machine? And it was, no, if anything, it was like, okay, we want you to be more of your own thing. And that really, it was really validating, but it's also a really fun challenge. It was like, okay, they're giving us the space to build something great here. Let's take it. Let's move forward. So that's been really, really exciting.
I think just to continue that, when you push ownership to the studio, it changed a little bit of how we did things at the studio level, and also we push ownership down further to the team. And that changed how we develop our games and the approaches, and opened up avenues for innovation in how we build and how we get the team engaged. And when ownership goes to the team, they get excited. You can see the effort pay out in the games we're producing. I think the Western Front armies look absolutely fantastic because people are invested and they're interested in quality and they're interested in pushing, and they want to own that content and the successes, and I mean the failures too, right? There's any excuses are gone now. These are our successes and our failures, and I think that's really exciting.
It's interesting to kind of get that confirmation about Sega, and seeing that they're still giving that sense of freedom out there, because over the years and over the past 10 or so years, Sega's picked up quite a few companies and brought them into the Sega family, and we've heard that throughout. From certain members of those teams, that Sega's really pushed that sense of ownership to them, and so it's really good to see that they're still doing that and creating that culture within the company. But one of the things that's really neat to see is kind of the evolution of where the talent within Sega is coming from, and it seems like years ago it was a very North America concentrated, and also in Japan, but now there seems to be so much Sega Studios coming out of Europe, especially on the PC front. So it's interesting. I mean, they have the Football Manager series, Total War, Company Heroes. Why do you think that is? That there's this big influx of strong IPs and these amazing games coming out of Europe? Because I know in England and the UK there's been a long history of video game development, but it seems like now more than ever it's really getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah, well, I think the European market has always been strong for our segment of games. So, like, PC strategy has always been really big there. Like, Germany, France, UK have always been, sort of neck and neck with the States as a strong market for us. So I think that's why some of that raw talent is there, and then I think Sega has just been intelligent about picking up the studios, bringing in the studios. They saw a lot of potential, and certainly with the Football Manager guys, Sports Interactive, and with Creative Assembly. And we've had quite close relationships with them because we're together in the PC strategy space. And it really, to me, shows that Sega understands that sort of somewhat niche market. Like, we're not making the next Halo, right? We're making a game for people who like strategy games,
right?
And play on PC. That doesn't mean we're not open to other things, but that's our core, and they've understood that nurturing that core is really important. So I think that's where that concentration has come for Sega in particular. I don't know if Quinn has anything to add, but
yeah, I mean, I think there's maybe an excitement again around the PC space as well, and in terms of an audience that was brought into PC through maybe more casual games, and now we're looking for a more core kind of experience. So there might be I don't know, maybe the PC is going to have a new renaissance. I'd love to see that happen. Obviously, for us, it'd be great. But it also, I mean, our core competency is in strategy, in the strategy space, and I think to tackle what Phil said, we are in a niche, but it can be a very profitable niche for everybody. We can put out some great games for a fan base that I think is very dedicated and very engaged, and it works for Sega, it works for us, and works for our community as well.
Absolutely. Going back, you mentioned a little bit ago about it was once Sega purchased Relic, I think it was in early January of 2013, and then about 6 months later, you guys ended up shipping and finishing up Company Heroes 2 in June, I believe. At that time, was there any changes or any sort of strategic vision that Sega wanted to implement, or was there any significant areas that Sega was involved in? I know it was kind of on the tail end of the development cycle there with Company Heroes, but was there any influence at all from Sega towards the end of that?
Well, I think one of the things we did pretty quickly once the purchase was finalized was take an extra couple of months to add more polish and finish up Company Heroes. I think we were originally going to ship in March of that year, so having that extra bit of time gave us some space. It also gave Sega some space to kind of assume all of the marketing and support and all the things that are built around a game. Because I think this, the smallest part of the team in a game production feels like the actual development team, and then you've got dozens and dozens of people around the product who help with distribution and sales and localization and QA and marketing and all these things. So it took them time to get ready, and it gave everybody a bit of breathing space for us to launch the game. I think a lot of the initiative, the strategic initiative for our next 4 or 5 years were pre-planned. We had a lot of ideas. It's a flexible plan, but I think Sega bought into what we wanted to do with the franchise, and they're 100% behind our approach now to sort of games as a service and frequent updates and smaller chunks of content and following a model like Creative Assembly, for instance, into that space.
Yeah, I mean, one of the great things they did really was the big strategic vision, I guess, was just supporting that view of Company of Heroes as a key pillar for Relic, making sure it got a really good launch and making sure we were set up for really frequent updates on a sort of games as a service model. Pushing out more Theater of War content, more multiplayer maps, getting a team that's rolling through that content. We were able to do post-launch content in a way we never had been able to before. We had sort of done some of that on Dawn of War 2, but not at the same pace. And we just got all the support we needed from Relic for that in terms of building the team internally to be able to do that. And that was like the big message from them is like, this franchise is key. It's like part of Relic's DNA. It's one of the major legs the studio should stand on. So give it the love it needs. And that was great to hear, obviously. And we've been running with that ball ever since.
Yeah, I mean, as a key data point, just to illustrate that, we released 20 or 21 updates since the launch of COH2 last year, and we did 8 in the same time period for the original Company of Heroes. So
wow.
the pace of updates, the involvement with the community team, balance team, and also our use of metrics to kind of judge the quality of what we've put out in terms of balance, in terms of engagement, and bringing fans back into the franchise. We're able to see the impact of those numbers, and then you can adjust and be flexible about how you do your updates and what you focus on.
And do you get a sense that doing that, these smaller and more frequent updates, is a way to kind of keep the gamer's interest right there and keep them playing, rather than waiting months and months between these larger updates and giving them larger chunks of content? Do you find that sprinkling content more regularly keeps users more engaged with the game and keep them playing?
It seems to be the case. I mean, there's a lot of things out there to compete with games right now. Not, I mean, other games, but also just people's time. It's very valuable, and I think you want to give them stuff to bring them back, and exciting things, and things to keep the game fresh and alive, and the community engaged. And those, it seems to be a way to do it, and I think they appreciate the effort and commitment to the long term for the game as well, because their time investment is rewarded. With new content, and with the idea that we're going to be here alongside them for the next several years.
Yeah, and just as a game designer, it's also a great way to make a better game. Whereas previously we sort of had to get everything right on the first try, and you never get everything right on the first try. So there's always sort of flaws in the game as it launches, and you don't really have the opportunity to correct those. Whereas here we have plentiful opportunity to identify any flaws, and by that I mean have the community point them out, watch how people are playing the game, challenge our own assumptions, and then we can go in and adjust based on how people are actually playing the game. And that's just like it's a whole new world for us, but it's like so exciting as a game designer because we're we're not living in an isolated box and like, okay, I hope we're right, press the button, which is sort of how it used to feel. So it's a really great experience.
Yeah, I've mentioned this a couple of times that I've been at Relic for more than 16 years now, and I'm more excited about the next couple of years than I have ever been in the past, and that includes launches of Homeworld and the original Company of Heroes. I think our opportunities now are greater than they've ever been.
That's amazing to hear. Now, one of the things that was really neat to see, but one of the things that people have really kind of credited Nintendo with doing is creating somewhat synergy between their IPs and their games. They share characters and they move back and forth quite often. And up until recently, Sega's not really done that a whole lot. But it was neat to see once Relic joined the team to see General Winter, come into Sonic and All-Stars Racing transformed and become a playable character, and that came out of nowhere, completely out of left field. No one was kind of expecting that. So can you talk a little bit about how that came to fruition and how he ended up joining the team there?
Well, I don't know about the discussions that were happening. I remember looking at some of the artwork. It's it's like, what do you think of this? Is this accurate? I'm like, no, but it looks cool. It's like it's not really a T-34, but that's fine. It's works for that. So I mean, it was really entertaining to be part of that process and just see the kind of I don't know, the reimagining of our content in a different in a different IP universe. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, I mean that came from the Sonic All-Stars team, as far as I know. In terms of like their own enthusiasm for like, hey, Company Heroes is part of the family now, let's do something with that, and we just thought it was great. I mean, that's like, we have lots of super fond memories of THQ, but that's one thing that Sega brings that you just can't really like recreate, is they have this brand, the Sonic identity that's existed for decades now. And just has its own vibe and its own like place in people's heart, and to get a chance to be part of that was great.
I guess it's safe to say though that the likelihood of like Sonic and Tails coming into Company Heroes 2 is rather unlikely, because that would be funny.
Yeah. I mean, there are ways that you could look at those things in a way, in context. I think that's one of the things is as long as you can provide context and some plausibility for why you're doing it. Like you can imagine Sonic as nose art on the front of a bomber. Maybe that kind of thing would be really cool.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk more about Company Heroes 2 and the upcoming DLC, the Western Front Armies, which is going to be releasing later this month. What can you tell us about this DLC and what fans can expect from it?
Well, we're excited. We're really excited about this release. 2 brand new armies that supplement and add to the 2 that we've already done. And one of the things that Relic does as a design focus, is to create a lot of asynchronous and asymmetric army designs. So they always feel different. They feel like they have a unique tone and unique experience. And we weave that all the way through from the audio, the presentation, and the unit choice, just to deliver a really unique feel for all the armies. So the new U.S. forces are fast and mobile and very versatile, and the Oberkommando West are hard-hitting and elite and big tanks, and it really gives them a visual and tonal character that's a lot of fun to work with. And they're standalone, which is another thing that Relic has done in the past, and it gives people an easy entry point to playing against all of the content we've done over the last year on COH2. So I think we're really excited. The buzz is great. The community sentiment is great. We're excited. I think they're excited, and looking forward to June 24th.
Awesome. Yeah, as an American, I'm really excited to see General Eisenhower get involved and bring his guys into the fold. It's pretty exciting there.
Yeah, I mean, also as just a longtime COH fan, it's great to see the sort of Western Front return and some of neat callbacks to original COH, but also a whole new flavor. That's really fun.
Mm-hmm.
So this is really the first big the DLC package, I guess, to come out for Company Heroes 2. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think this is the biggest package we've done to date. We've done a number of Theater of War updates and like I said, 20 additional updates with units and commanders and balance patches and those kinds of things. So the sort of deployments, as we call them. But this is definitely the biggest.
And so, what's the I guess realistic likelihood of, or what's the how long is Relic really going to be supporting Company Heroes 2 down the line? Are we looking at further and similar DLC packs coming in to the fold, months and even maybe a year or so down the line, or what can fans kind of expect from that from a support standpoint of content from Relic?
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at the original Company Heroes, which is still going 7 years, almost 8 years now after its original launch. So, we had a 5-year plan initially with COH2, and it's a flexible plan, and we're going to adjust it based on community feedback and what they want to see, but we look at it as a World War II platform. So if you're interested in World War II or you're interested in strategy, we want to be the guys that are forefront in your mind. And we're going to be committed to building the franchise and building content into the future. And whatever content, whatever form that takes, is really in many ways up to the community and what they want to see, what they're excited about as well.
So obviously E3 is right around the corner. Down there in Los Angeles. Is there any likelihood that people will be able to see the West Front armies at SEGA's booth at E3?
Doesn't look like we're going to E3 at this point, just because we're shipping so close to the E3 dates. I think E3 is next week. We're essentially shipping on the 24th, so just shortly after. But we've been running an alpha now with several thousand of our most rabid fans giving us feedback on the game. So we're going to be ready just after E3 to ship the game.
Awesome. It's going to be really awesome to see that finally come into the fold there. So I'm sure that at what point does Relic kind of shift gears and focus on other games and other things you're working on? Is there other stuff going on without going into too many specifics? But at what point do you kind of say, okay, we're gonna go on from Company Heroes 2 and let's kind of go on to the next big thing at Relic?
Well, I mean, Company Heroes 2 is not something we're moving away from because it's obviously it's a pillar for us and it's a live product that we're continuing to support, but it's not all of what Relic is, so we're definitely looking at other things. One of the things ongoing now is support for the Dawn of War back catalog. So we've updated Dawn of War 1, and we're on the verge of updating Dawn of War 2 to use our battle server technology that we set up for Company of Heroes 2. So that'll improve matchmaking and reduce lag and make for more secure leaderboards and so on. So make for a better multiplayer experience. And also, GameSpy was shutting down, so we had to get Dawn of War 1 out first. And so that's live and in the world now, and the Dawn of War 2 update will happen soon as well. So yeah, continued support for that back catalog is definitely on our mind, and that's where my focus is right now. But obviously, there will be more from Relic in the future.
And I think it's really exciting to see Sega support these titles that some of them, like the original Dawn of War or Company of Heroes, are many, many years old. And you think you contrast that to some other publishers that are shutting down games that are really just a few years old. So I think it's that long-term commitment to what we do, and strategy games are that sort of long-tail experience. They evolve, the metagame evolves, people change, how the game is played, and there's always kind of this living ecosystem that we can keep injecting and keep alive.
Yeah.
That's awesome. recent gamer article and that they interviewed with you, Quinn, where you talked about us.
Oh, we're cutting out.
There.
Sorry, we were cutting out there. I missed most of that.
Okay, we'll start over. Yeah, we were a little choppy in that last bit too. Hopefully it'll work out a little bit. But okay, so starting over, there was a recent Eurogamer article that came out. I think it was earlier this week. They interviewed you, Quinn, and they talked a little bit about some ideas you had for making RTS games work on consoles. And Sega has had numerous. They've attempted numerous times to make some of those games work on consoles. They've had Stormrise, Universe at War, and all of those games have had issues, translating and coming over to the console side of things. So, can you talk to us a little bit about your thoughts on RTS games on consoles and anything more that you can kind of shed on how to make it work well on a console?
It's funny, that article, the little sort of mail frenzy that we had around Relic. People are like, did I miss a company meeting or something? When did we decide to do this? No, I mean, this is an idea that we had a number of years ago, actually, about this, when we were at one point given a mandate to look at RTS on the console. And I think the challenge is that RTS, as it exists now with mouse and keyboard, doesn't translate in its purest form. That was funny. Yeah. How come we don't have random people come in kissing us?
I know. My wife's about to head to work.
Oh. So thanks, Phil.
That's cute.
Yeah. Lost my train of thought. Yeah. So I think it's a very compelling design exercise, but I don't think they won't translate as is.
Right.
I think the purest experience and control is with a mouse and with a keyboard. I think touch offers a lot of opportunities in strategy games, but I think if you're moving a strategy game to the console, you need to be able to change your impressions of what a strategy game or your interpretations of what strategy is. And I think that's maybe the mindset that you have to take. But I also mentioned that you have to do it kind of slowly. I think the community is they're relatively conservative. There's a format that people like to follow with strategy games, and you need to ease the temperature of the water and bring people in and change that process more slowly, sort of bit by bit, get people used to the idea. So it's not like you just do it. I think you have to plan long term to make that transition if you wanted to onto the console. But for me, PC is still the purest form of control.
Right, absolutely. You talked a little bit about the how touch could be integrated into that and kind of work well with the console side of things. Could you see maybe the Wii U with its gamepad kind of coming into fold and playing into that a little bit? Do you think that technology and what it can do? I know on the I guess the power side and what it can push might be limited compared to what you see on the PC and other consoles, but just from what it can do, the gamepad and everything and the features that has, would that, you think, be able to do some interesting things on the RTS side?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's less about control and more about acceptance of the genre on different platforms. That you need to be able to take the audience to the system, and if the audience isn't there, it doesn't matter how well you do with doing a conversion to a different platform. The audience just isn't there. They're not going to come along with you. So that's probably more the challenge than the technical or gameplay side.
I see. Now, one of the other things I want to talk about, because we're talking about consoles, do you foresee anything with on the handheld side? Do you think there's anything that would there be a way you think to be able to bring in RTS to handhelds and make that work? Because I mean, I would imagine that would be even a trickier thing to do than consoles. But can you envision doing something like that at any point?
I think there's opportunities for maybe different kinds of companion apps, that sort of thing. Rather than doing the whole game, just a different way of interacting with the game in different places. Is something that I think you can explore with handhelds and mobile and that kind of thing. The smaller platforms. I don't know, Phil, if you have any thoughts on that, but
yeah, I mean, I think there definitely would be potential to do something if that was a space we wanted to tackle. I mean, our games tend to be a combination of quite high fidelity artwork and deep gameplay that don't necessarily suit the sort of requirements of the handheld space. But there are some very compelling strategy games on handheld. I don't think anyone's really like rocked the real-time aspect yet, but I'm sure someone will. And I mean, if we wanted to dedicate our energy there, it could be us, I suppose. But we're really focused on PC right now as the heart and soul of the RTS space and what's made Relic great. So that's definitely where my headspace is right now, is mouse and keyboard.
Sure. Are there any console RTSs that have released, in the last few years that you guys think did do it well, or show that, hey, this looks like you could actually do it pretty well here?
Well, was it End War? They used voice control. I think it was End War, wasn't it? Anyway,
yeah.
I think it was Ubisoft. That was sort of a very innovative approach, using stuff that comes with the console.
Right.
You can't put a mouse and keyboard on a console because people don't have that stuff. You can't expect them to have a peripheral. But End War used the sort of inherent speaker, plug and play kind of stuff that comes with the consoles. I thought that was a really innovative approach to delivering that experience.
Yeah, I thought there was some nice things in Halo Wars as well. Like the game as a whole maybe didn't succeed as well as I would have liked, but there were some, like their simplified base building seemed to suit the console quite well. I liked their sort of focus on a single ability per unit, just so you always had, like, I think it was the X button as your target there. But yeah, it's all like, there's elements and steps along the way. There's no one who's hit it out of the park. And there's times I wonder if it's really like, is it a park we want to be swinging in, right? It's not like, is a deep RTS what people are coming to a console to play? Probably not, right? Like it just may not be a couch game experience. That doesn't mean there can't be a great couch friendly strategy game, but it probably isn't going to look like Company of Heroes or Dawn of War 2 or Dawn of War 1 or Homeworld or any of those games that are sort of closer to our DNA. I mean, Outfit was a console strategy game, but it took a completely different approach, sort of third-person view, but really shown in its multiplayer aspect, where the strategy elements came up more strongly. So, I think that's another good example of, reshuffling the assumptions in order to find what works for a console.
It's interesting that you brought up Halo Wars, because that was really the game for my son. He was really big into the Halo series, loved them, he played them quite a bit, and that was really the game that got him into the whole RTS scene. And now he's graduated up to Company Heroes 2, and he absolutely loves that game. But it's fun that a game that's rather more on the simplistic side of the RTS scale was able to introduce him as a young adult, and about 13 years old, he was able to get into it, learn the basics and how it really works, and then kind of work his way up to something a little more tough, and a little bit more I guess I don't know, but just there's a lot more to Company Heroes too. I just can't think of the word I'm looking for, but it's just interesting that was able to, in a way, some of those console games can serve a purpose by leading people into the PC side of those games.
Mm-hmm. I think the word you were looking for was compelling depth. I think
that was exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah,
for that.
Deeply enjoyable experience full of compelling depth. That's what I want to say.
Absolutely. Now I want to kind of switch gears a little bit and kind of get some personal thoughts from both of you. We talked a little bit about E3. Now I know that as game developers, I'm sure that you guys love video games as a whole and play a multitude of different games yourselves. But looking at E3, looking at what the landscape of the game industry is right now, can you talk a little bit about some of the things that you're personally interested in looking at and seeing what happens and comes out of E3?
Whew, yeah, that's. I mean, E3 is a singularly interesting experience. Let's put it that way. It's. I've been to a lot of them, and when you're down at E3, it's amazing how little of E3 you actually get a chance to see. So it's going to be, from my perspective now, the first time in many years I haven't been down for the show. So I'll get a consumer perspective of what's happening and be able to look at the landscape. I don't know. I think there's a lot of stuff that doesn't happen at E3 that I'm interested in, and just in terms of big PC games right now, the sort of esports phenomenon. We're sort of looking at all that kind of happening with games like League of Legends and World of Tanks and seeing how they're building their community, that kind of excitement level. It's amazing to see those guys when you're down there, the size of the booths that the World of Tanks guys had, for instance, last year, and how they're competing with these enormous publishers just in terms of scale. I'm a late adopter to consoles, so I'm really interested in seeing these sort of maybe second generation of the new console titles, and how we'll start to see the sort of initial looks at some of those, and how they're going to push the power of the new consoles. It always takes a generation or two of games to really get to the meat of the new console. So that's going to be pretty interesting. I've got a lot of friends going. I'm going to be picking their brains about stuff they're seeing. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, I traditionally don't go to E3, so just haven't really had the opportunity before as it lines up. So I'll be, again, in the consumer point of view. And I mean, in terms of the games on the horizon, I'm really excited to see what the next wave of RTS games are. There's a bit of a renaissance. Planetary Annihilation is in beta. Grey Goo. These are games that I'm really interested in seeing what they do, and see people pushing that space more. That's really exciting for us. And like Quinn is saying, the next generation of console games. I like the big spectacle games just like everybody else, right? So I'm looking forward to those as well. Any previews on the next Batman game will make me happy.
I saw some leaked pics from that everyone's setting up for their their booths and stuff like that. Yeah. That's always an exciting stuff to see any leaked pics. But I saw a few from Sega's booth, and it looks like they're really going full steam ahead with Alien Isolation. It looks amazing what they're doing there. And I was kind of we were talking a few weeks back on one of our podcasts, and I was really thinking that's going to be the Sega's mainline big game leading up there. So I'm really excited to see what. What are some thoughts and what they're going to show, coming out of E3 with the Alien Isolation. That's going to be a big game for Sega.
Yeah. It's such a compelling contrast to the other. I think a lot of the other big games that are out there, just in terms of how it presents and the pacing and the mood and the tone. They've really nailed it. I mean, I don't scare easy. But yeah, there are some moments playing that game where I was jumping. I was jumping in goosebumps, and it takes me back to, I think, when I was maybe 5 and I saw a commercial for the first Alien movie on TV and scared the crap out of me. Just it's one of those vague, suppressed memories that that came up when I was playing it again. I'm like, oh.
It's funny. I haven't had a chance to play it, but I get that from everyone who I talk to that the game is really really creepy, and there hasn't been a game that's really brought that sense of kind of fear and dread from me, and probably ever since I played the first Dead Space game.
Yeah.
That game really got to me, and I get that same sense of kind of like fear and foreboding that something's coming, and you're just dreading going around that next corner because you just don't know what there's going to be there, and so that's very exciting. I'm really looking forward to that game.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely me too. That's yeah, it's a scare fest.
So I want to talk a little bit about some of the future of game design, the future of PC with you guys, and pick your brain on some of the things that you think may be coming down the line, and what the future of game design. What's the next big thing on the PC front that is going to be happening? Can you talk a little bit about that? And like you said, there's been a sort of revival on the RTS side, but really on the whole PC side, it seems like PC is really getting a resurgence here in the last few years, and a lot of people are coming back and as their kind of mainline system of choice for playing games, right?
Yeah, I think the big thing for us is changing how we make games, how we approach our community. I think there's been more change in our development processes at Relic in the last 6 or 8 months than there had been in 6 or 8 years prior to that. Really, really dramatic changes. Like we talked about earlier about pushing ownership of the content down to the team, getting them excited and engaged as well in what they're building, being flexible with how we build content, how we plan, the agility needed to react to where the market is going, where the technology is going. The pace of change is so dramatic that I think companies that can remain agile and flexible in how they build, how they put teams together, how they get the teams engaged, how they keep the community engaged, those guys are going to find real success in the future. And there's a lot of learning and experimenting and testing going on at Relic now, in terms of how we build games, how we're flexible, how we engage our creativity and the people on the team. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm so excited about the next couple of years. It's just getting to build something and be part of something that feels really dynamic.
Yeah, and I mean the whole PC space is really open with platforms like Steam, but other digital platforms as well, in terms of just opening it up to smaller studios, indie games, and that's just been really healthy in terms of driving creativity, driving new thinking, and the things Quinn is talking about in terms of how we're reacting internally is, I think, an important reaction to seeing that drive for creativity on the outside from smaller studios and going, if they can do it, we need to take a look at how we're doing things and learn from that sort of like bootstrap attitude that some of the smaller studios have had, and that's makes it so much more fun to be a game designer when you're really out there pushing the limits and challenging things, and just we have the advantage of geography. Just down the street are a series of smaller studios that do that. Like, I'll give a shout out to Clay Entertainment, the people who did Don't Starve and Mark of the Ninja. They're down the street from us.
Oh, wow.
Founded by people who worked on the original Dawn of War, I should say. Just having that proximity is really good for us in terms of, why aren't we doing more exciting things like that? Why aren't we focusing our creativity and doing things? And that's been a lot of the questions we asked ourselves, and we've definitely been acting on that. And there's a real spirit of like, more than yes we can, but like let's get the fun back, right? Let's focus on the fun and focus on what our fans are telling us, and it's a really exciting time here. So
Let's have fun making games again. You
Yeah.
know, it's fun. It's supposed to be fun. Is that beer?
It is beer. It's a Pacifico Mexican beer.
No, I guess it's after lunch there. Hey?
I usually start around lunch. You mentioned that it's fun, and that's great to hear that making games is fun, because it should be. But there's been an unfortunate reality of making games for quite a while now, that it seems like when a studio in these smaller companies especially, that when they release a game, it seems like they shut down, and they're looking for jobs, and there's people that lose jobs, like we talked about earlier. But is that just an unfortunate reality and necessity of the video game industry? Is there a way that it can be done better, that that a company doesn't have to get shuttered after it launches a game, and just maybe not have the next project? What can be done to better secure jobs for game developers and things like that?
Well, God, I hope it's not an inevitable setup. I mean, I've been here for coming up on 8 years, and I've been able to move from project to project, and Relic is really built on that model, that we're not just building a team for a game that is then going to go away once the game ships. Part of it is this increased focus on post-launch games as a service, so that requires people to stay working on the project. But it's also just a matter of like, okay, we're building the studio. We're not building a bunch of part-time workers who are like laid off willy-nilly. We're trying to build people who will be with us for 10 years, 15 years, and that requires like a strategy at the studio. And Relic's been fairly successful with that, and definitely other studios have. Creative Assembly has. They've had their Total War series, but also like they've been able to do Alien Isolation, and to great success, and trying to keep that studio strong and growing. I mean, it's ridiculous to me to be laying off people regularly. It's like it's the epitome of short-sighted vision, right? It's you bring someone on, you invest in them, in training them, you build the team. All that is a lot of work to get that going, and then you just discard it. Yeah, that's not the type of place I want to work at, and fortunately, it's not the type of place I am working at. So
that's great.
Yeah. It's I mean, the fact is, making games is really hard. There are challenges and pressures, continually all the way up and down the line, from developer to publisher, and I think, I don't know what there's a phrase about, what's it, Russian thing about all happy families are the same and every tragic family is unique. I don't know, there's something like that. But the reasons a studio shut down are just, I mean, there's dozens of them that could be completely unique. The cost pressures, or how the team was built, all those kinds of things. But maybe to a degree, it's sort of recently gone through, not us, but the industry in general, a little bit of a Walmartization of development. The cost pressures and everything was pushed down to the developer, and they're promising more and more, and it's expensive, and they have to hire, and profit margins are cut into, or the big publishers have pressure. How things are distributed, changes in business models, piracy, all these things kind of impact the bottom line for these companies, and those pressures get pushed down ultimately to the developers, and that might be one reason. I think it's why Sega for us is so refreshing, because they're giving us the space and the time to make the decisions that are the best for the studio. And I think that's a great model to work within. You see the success of studios under the Sega umbrella, like Creative Assembly, and how well they're doing. So that's a compelling model. Maybe that's something that other studios and publishers can kind of look at. There's long-term success in maintaining and building a team that can work together.
Now, one of the final questions I want to ask, it's a fan submitted question. Actually, we got a ton of similar questions surrounding this, and I could completely understand if you guys can't address it. But late last year in December, there was a bunch of stories that came out that linked Relic with Phantasy Star Online 2. There was I guess there was an ad posted that suggested that there was some work being done on a Japanese MMO, a port going along those lines. Is there anything you can talk to us about that? Has Relic been doing any work on Phantasy Star Online 2?
Never heard of it.
Not as far as I know. No.
Yeah. Unless there's another floor somewhere here that I haven't seen. No.
Yeah.
No, I don't think there's any truth to those rumors that I can think of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. It would seem like an odd pairing with with what Relic's done in the past and what Phantasy Star Online 2 is. But like I said, we opened the floor to questions, and that was a rather popular one. Another one, obviously, is the DOW3. People want to hear more about that, but hopefully, we'll hear something at some point in the future with the Dawn of War franchise. But that was it. I wanted to, ask you guys: is there anything that you want to kind of get out there and tell your fans, tell the people who are playing your games, any messages that you want to get to the community?
Well, mostly I just want to say thank you, especially to the Dawn of War fans who've stuck with the game for almost 10 years now. This fall will be the 10th anniversary of the original Dawn of War, so it's great to know there are people who still love that game. And I came to Relic to work on that franchise, and so it's really exciting to be relaunching the back catalog and being able to give some love to those games that have meant so much to me and to a lot of other people. So just thank you guys. You're awesome.
Great.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to be able to talk about our games and the Western Front armies in particular, especially today, sort of 70 years anniversary of D-Day, and the fact that we're able to do this, I think, because of things that happened 70 years ago. And I'm really blessed to feel that.
Oh. So, absolutely, that's great. So that's going to wrap it up with our interview with Quinn and Philip. I want to thank you guys again for coming in and talking to us today. I hope we're able to teach and educate some of the Sega community out there on what Relic's all about, some of the games that Relic has created, and what you guys are currently doing. Hopefully, more people out there will get involved in Company Heroes 2 who may not have done that. I know. Sega brings in all these companies from time to time, and they've done some games that are completely different than what Sega's been known for, in the past. And I think Company Heroes kind of fits that mold. But it's great to see Sega's focus on the PC side of things and some of these, smaller genres that people may not be that familiar with. And Company Heroes 2 fits that mold, but it's such an excellent game, and I think it fits perfectly with Sega's strategic vision on what they want to do with the PC going forward. So we look forward to seeing more Company Heroes 2 in the future. And thanks again for coming on. Hopefully we can have you guys on again sometime soon.
Love to.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, thanks. Lots of fun.
Great.
Thanks.